Lee Marvin plays Walker in John Boorman's Point Blank. He's out for revenge against his ex-wife, ex-friend, and an entire criminal syndicate. In Donald Westlake's novel, The Hunter, on which the film is based, the lead character's most prominent feature are his hands. He said if he had to, he'd kill me with his hands. He had big hands, Mal. In Point Blank, Walker's power is in his feet. His commanding, marching, determined footsteps drive the story. They even drive the cuts, the editing rhythm of the film's most famous scene. Lee Marvin's shoes, the ones he wore in the film, were gifted to director John Boorman by Marvin's widow after his death in 1987. Boorman and Marvin made 2 films together, Point Blank and Hell in the Pacific in 1968, and they remained great friends for many years. Boorman often appeared to wonder what Marvin had seen in him, both as a director and a friend. Though it's easy to see what Boorman saw in Marvin, a chiseled visage through which the audience could project their power fantasies, and a face on which Boorman could literally project moving images. A face he loved, in some cases, loved to obscure, even cake in mud as he did in their subsequent effort. Yet those glowing eyes remain. It's a tall task to match the fury and power in a glare against Toshiro Mifune, but Marvin manages it. Boorman eulogized Marvin in his BBC documentary Lee Marvin, A Personal Portrait in 1998 and in his memoir Conclusions, where he regales the reader with anecdotes from their time together, accompanied by insights into his character and the demons which haunted the man. I once asked him why so many actors were drunks. Maybe it's the other way around, he said. This was Lee at his most gnomic. I asked for an explanation. If you're a drunk, there are not too many jobs that you could hold down, he said. Fame is a confirmation of identity, an escape from anonymity, but it seldom corresponds to who you are. Lee Marvin, however, was always Lee Marvin, a drunk recovering from the trauma of war. Marvin actually had served in the Pacific during World War II and was shot through the sciatic nerve and spent an incredibly painful few months recovering in a military hospital. He was just as tough and hardened in real life as the characters he portrayed on screen. According to Boorman, Lee carried his father's First World War handgun all through the Pacific campaign, hoping it would confer bravery on him. He revered and feared his father. When Lee was drunk, he would sometimes dare to take the gun apart into its many constituent elements and then attempt to put them together again. He seldom could. It had to wait till he was sober, a father and son fighting in 2 wars. Point Blank is arguably the most celebrated adaptation of Westlake's Parker character. A few have been made, including The Outfit in 1973, an adaptation of Westlake's 3rd Parker novel, a very rousing, fun, and exciting picture. And Payback, another adaptation of The Hunter, with Mel Gibson, which is fun and I feel gets a little bit of a bad rap. The character's name in this film, Point Blank, is Walker, which is fitting, as we discussed before, but necessary in the films of the day. Back in those days, a studio would buy the rights to a certain story, a particular novel, not the entire series, as they might do today. Therefore, it was necessary to change the name of the title character. Diehard fans of Parker will say that Lee Marvin isn't as brutal, as animalistic, as loquacious in his intimidations as the character in Westlake's books, 24 of them, which Westlake wrote under the pen name Richard Stark, a nom de plume he reserved for his more hard-edged and graphic crime novels. Instead, poignantly, Marvin, in this film, is stoic. He makes a point of not speaking. As Boorman said, Marvin was always looking for a gesture to replace a line of dialogue. Quentin Tarantino, a known detractor of the film, who, writing in his book Cinema Speculation, considered Point Blank to be on par with a TV movie and also seemed to correlate Marvin's lack of speaking with his diminished interest in the craft of acting. According to Boorman, though, Marvin jumped at the opportunity to embrace the physicality in his performances. Lee loved to do the stunts. He just never held back. He was also active in the writing process of the movie and supportive of new talent like Boorman, whose only credits before his leap to Hollywood being black and white BBC documentaries and A Hard Day's Night cash-in, Catch Us If You Can, a freewheeling spotlight of the band the Dave Clark Five. I defer all my approvals to John, Lee told top brass at MGM, giving unprecedented power to the 36-year-old director, including final cut of the picture. This, to me, doesn't exactly sound like an actor who is checked out, more like someone who wanted to take risks on exciting new filmmakers, concepts, and styles, while knowing that the best way to make an impact on screen would be to leverage his iconic presence, his icy demeanor, and rugged looks to bring this enigmatic character to life. To convey the air of mystery, the dreamlike quality of this story, and the character of Walker, which is the source of the film's power today. It's a fairly simple revenge story, elevated by its form, attention to detail, and willingness to linger in the past, on psychedelic imagery, on loving close-ups of Marvin's face. The final page count for the screenplay, only 70 pages, barely made it out of the MGM timing office. Boorman defended the choice, explaining the film would be largely visual, to which the script timer replied, "So there's going to be a lot of leering and peering in this movie, I see." Point Blank begins with the shooting of Walker in a jail cell. Disconnected and disconcerting scenes flash before the screen like a dream. Walker, drunk, lying on the floor of a raucous party as his friend Mal Reese, played by John Vernon, implores him to help.
Don't you understand? I need your help!
To help him what? Knock off a delivery of cash, a nocturnal helicopter delivery to a prison. Every element of the original novel that was purposefully prosaic is made into a spectacle in this film. The book is a grimy, dingy little tale told in squalid, tiny rooms. But the movie plays out against vast plains, towering modern architecture, elaborate locales like Alcatraz prison. This was Boorman's first film in America. He captures its towering heights, its impersonal bigness. America was about to land on the moon. It was a country, like Walker, that was on the move. In many ways, the movie is fascinated with America, as almost a sort of alien culture. You can perhaps identify these moments: the avant-garde singing in the San Francisco club, the spacious kitchens and flats, the impressive array of modern American kitchen amenities and resort homes, the omnipresence of over-the-top gaudy commercialism, colorful advertisements, billboards, and neon, the gunslinger attitudes of the men, the crew that strikes. They score the loot. No one was supposed to get hurt, but Vernon begins acting erratically. Feverishly counting the money, Walker retreats to a quiet place where his wife and best friend betray him and leave him for dead. Walker lies in the cell, trying to remember how he got here, and then he finds himself on a boat with a mysterious benefactor, perhaps even trying to recall how he got out. Did he? The mysterious character of Yost, played by Keenan Wynn, which sounds suspiciously like Ghost, is Walker's silent partner in his revenge, a man with a grudge against the organization. He points Walker in the right direction. Walker arrives, dramatically, at the pad his wife was sharing with Reese, only to find him gone, their bed empty. Boorman does all my work for me on the audio commentary. He's analyzed his own film, knows what he was going for when Walker shoots the bed, and the director describes it as the relinquishing of his sexual drive. He, like his gun, is spent in a way. Before her violent reunion with her husband, Lynn, his wife, goes through the motions, spending a day at the salon, shopping, almost lifelessly, which Boorman compared to a funereal preparation. She knows she's on borrowed time, ashamed of what she's done, ready for death. Walker can't muster the anger to kill her in cold blood. As she explains her motive, he sits motionless. Marvin threw out the script in which he had dialogue and chose instead to sit in repose. A wise choice. We can see him thinking, ruminating, and in that way it's much more powerful, cutting to a wordless flashback of their initial attraction and first meeting. He awakes to find Lynn has killed herself. Almost miraculously, any evidence she ever existed has been scrubbed from the scene. The morbid work of Yost, who stands grinning outside. Lynn's collection of perfume and oils drains down the tub, her life essence spent. Retreating afterwards to a corner that reminds us very much of his jail cell purgatory, his place between life and death, and his reemergence into the world. These lapses in Walker's memory, the feeling that he is a character who lives out of time, and the experimental nature of the editing and the narrative have caused critics and viewers to speculate that Walker may in fact be a ghost, or is living in a dream as he dies in his cell. The events of the picture, a revenge fantasy that will never happen as he breathes his last.
Did it happen? A dream. A dream.
This is such a common reading that I felt obliged to mention it, but it's not an angle I'm overly interested in. However, I think Boorman was trying to give the impression of this. Walker's spectral nature, an avenging angel, a force of nature whose very presence causes the unraveling of the conspiracy against him right to the very top. Tarantino, despite having very strong opinions about the film, makes a series of errors in his essay about Point Blank, claiming Walker murders a bunch of high-powered mobsters. Poignantly, Walker actually doesn't kill anybody in the film. He roughs them up, sure, He's threatening and assumedly ready to kill, but doesn't really have to do anything except arrive and be, kind of like Marvin himself. Maurice falls to his death through cowardice and panic, a very unceremonious and humiliating death. Marvin didn't believe that Vernon was up to the task of playing his equal in the revenge. But I think the fact that Vernon is so pathetic and smarmy, and he is even more so in the book, actually works to add insult to injury. Lloyd Bachner's character is taken out by his own men, and Brewster, played by Carol O'Connor, is double-crossed and killed by the ambitious Yost, who has set Walker loose on the organization to sow chaos in its ranks, offering him a vacuum in which to step in and seize power. The impression of the organization that I get is it's a very bloated, hubristic enterprise. Their grasp on power is thin, any slight disturbance loaded with the potential to completely topple their operation. It's been crippled by the weight of its own bureaucracy, against Parker, the entrepreneur, perhaps paralleling America's own predicament in the ongoing Vietnam War crisis. Walker can't get a straight answer out of anybody. Even when he reaches the very pinnacle of the organization, there's no one really in charge. It's so disparate and segmented, even the boss can't get his hands on a measly $40,000 to pay off Walker, something that would immediately end all of his problems.
Who runs things?
Carter and I run things. I run things.
What about Fairfax? Will he pay me?
Fairfax is a man who signs checks.
Oh, cash.
Cash checks. Fairfax isn't going to give you anything. He's finished. Fairfax is dead. He just doesn't know it yet.
Somebody's got to pay.
This one man, a fly in the ointment, is enough to topple the bloated organization. By the end of the film, Parker refuses his money. Realizing that he's been a pawn in this game, used again, he retreats and disappears amongst the ruins of Alcatraz. The film could very well be a meditation on exploitation, and one in which the Walker Parker character learns a lesson on revenge, on leaving a wake of human wreckage. Angie Dickinson plays Chris, Walker's sister-in-law, and she readily serves his aims, even sleeps with the odious Mal, in order to provide Walker a window to attack. During a penultimate scene, she snaps and petulantly beats Walker and sabotages the house where they are taking refuge. Walker seems to understand that he has used and abused her and makes amends in his own way.
Hey. What's my last name?
What's my first name?
Perhaps this proved a revelation to him, a revelation that Westlake's character of Parker would never have had, the inspiration to step away and out of the misery and ruin of the outfit and of his revenge. Whenever I referred to Westlake's novel in my video, I used Darwin Cook's adaptation of The Hunter, the first novel, as a reference illustration for you guys. This is a terrific book. There are 4 of them, adaptations of Westlake's Parker books, and they're just terrific. If you're a big Darwin Cook fan, he's a guy that just does nostalgia terrifically well. And energy and passion and power. He's terrific, and he revels in the world of Parker. The world that John Boorman created for Walker is very different, but I think this movie is incredibly stylish, dynamic, and interesting, and I really love it. It's very hypnotic and fun. And yeah, it's not the Parker character necessarily, but it's something new and different. It's worth checking out. Guys, thanks so much for tuning into my film journal today to watch this video. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe if you liked the video, and if you want to support my work and help me continue to make it, consider supporting me on Patreon, where you can watch a lot of older videos that I took off the channel. There's probably 20 or 30 extra reviews around there that I think you guys would appreciate. Until next time.